It's Stu, and this is going to be a somewhat hectic haul video. Oh boy, did I haul. Now, for everything here, there's a book donated somewhere. And even though I thrifted today, I bought 5 books. There were actually several books that I had given last week into little free libraries without any books in return. There just wasn't anything in there for me, and I just wanted to start unhauling. So I think I'm actually at a 1-per-1 ratio of haul unhaul. It still feels enormous. So here we go. Ministry of Time was one of my 2 free books at the Friends of the Library. This book, I think, is well known to BookTube. And that being said, I was excited to find it. It had literally just arrived. As I talk a lot with the volunteers at that establishment now and see what's recently arrived and what's been there for a minute. Anyway, this is Kayleen Bradley, and she's a British author, I think of Cambodian descent, and the Ministry of Time makes me and probably any other avid reader think of George Orwell. And I think there are some Orwell-isms in this book. I think this is speculative, and I think this is looking at how we tell history, what is time, and human relationships. Okay, Grady Hendrix is a well-known, I believe it's horror genre writer. Not my cup of tea, but I have read over the summer a couple of horror books, and I always want to keep on my shelf something that's out of my comfort zone, a little fit for my comfort zone, but that's another out of my comfort zone. So this is the Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. Again, I believe it's horror, if not fantasy horror genre. It might be young adult. And this author is pretty well known. This was one of the free books at the Friends of the Library, I believe. Another free book at the Friends of the Library, or maybe this one I paid for, is The Babysitter by Joyce Carol Oates. It is a signed version from a town hall, and so I thought that I would snatch it up. Joyce Carol Oates is a beloved American author, and now in her 80s, still publishing the crap out of books. She's a good storyteller, writer, definitely gets sort of middle Americana sort of feel. This cover also gives me that vibe. However, I didn't know, okay, it's Detroit in the 70s. Maybe suspense. Anyway, also amongst the signed books that were available at the Friends of the Library, Night Crawling by Layla Motley was also an Oprah's Book Club pick in 2022. I think it's Motley. Anyway, don't know anything about this book, but props on the back are Ruth Ozeki, Tommy Orange. So I'm gonna respect those props, and I'm pretty excited for this book. Actually, this might be the one that I'm most excited for. It's Oakland. Yeah. Has some reaches into justice involvement. Yeah. Okay. Cantica by Elizabeth Graver is not signed. It wasn't one of the signed ones, but it is one of my 2 free ones. Okay. I was compelled to the cover. I think this book is Turkey. Yeah. And multi-generational, looking at identity, migration, family. Yeah. Yeah, Exile. Okay. Through a Woman's Lens, Cantica. So those are all of the Friends of the Library free and one paid for books that I've hauled in the last 2 weeks. Now for the little free library books. Advika and the Hollywood Wives by Carthantha Ramasetti. I have no idea. This is a book of the month, which suggests that it was popular to me, and it's pretty recent. Oh, 2023. So thought, why not have a contemporary fiction on my shelf? This author lives in New York, so the Hollywood Wives feels interesting as a setting. However, I'm here for it. I wonder what kind of like speculation into demands on females in this sort of hyper commercialized, filtered world. I think that's the vibes it's giving me. Don't know. Another free book was Lauren Groff's Arcadia. Also just picked it by the cover. I think I did spend a little bit of time in it. This is New York in the 70s. So we got a Detroit in the 70s. We got by Joyce Carol Oates. We got a New York in the 70s. Okay. It's contemporary fiction, maybe leaning towards young adult. And trying to find the copyright without having to squint too much, you all, because it's 2022. So still pretty recent. Yeah, I'm kind of happy to find these recent books. Let's find out a little bit about Lara Croft. Oh, writing for the New Yorker and some American short stories. And she lives in Gainesville, Florida. Okay. All right. Like the cover. Short novel. Let's see what it has to offer. Where Did You Go, Bernadette is on my current TBR. It'll be read sometime this week. This cover is on upside down, so when I went to look into the book, it's all upside down and threw me off a little. Don't know if I'm going to like Maria Semple or not. This one's absolutely toting the Where Did You Go, Bernadette to promote this author. Heard a couple of reviews that made me think that this would be worth my time. It was a little free library find, so I would have loved to have been able to trade Where Did You Go, Bernadette for it. However, that one's still in my TBR. So let me see. Also free. Let's just take care of all these hardbacks. The Lost Story by Meg Shaver. Really dig trees on covers. I've read several books with trees on covers. They haven't disappointed. This book is supposed to be sort of like a C.S. Lewis, I think it says. So must be fantasy. Inspired by C.S. Lewis and the Chronicles of Narnia, this wild and wondrous novel is a fairy tale for grown-ups and who still knock on wardrobes just in case. Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, who wasn't positively infected by the tales of Narnia? I read it to my young brother. We were definitely into it at the time. This was a book of the month in July 2024, so somewhat recent. And yeah, I got time for an adult fairy tale. It'll feel like a good mix-up with some of these content of these books. Speaking of mix-up, Tex and Molly in the Afterlife is a book from the 90s and by Richard Grant. It's really interesting for me to read these contemporary fics from the 90s, which was when I was definitely reading and certainly had come of age and was able to sort of have my own thoughts. And then even if it's a reread or not, I may or may not remember anything about the book. It's interesting to see what holds up and what doesn't. So I'm always glad to grab a 90s book. Who wouldn't want it based on the cover? I think it's got decent reviews. I think it's a decent book. Again, we'll see if it holds up. Let me see, are there any more hardbacks? from the free haul? I think not. So let's get into the paperback. Sorry if you couldn't hear me because I was over here digging. Okay. An Ember in the Ashes is young adult fantasy. I have a deal with myself that this is going to get read soon. I'll even maybe put a timer or a date in my calendar, because I don't need young adult fantasy sitting on my shelf for a very long time when I live right next to a high school and somebody else could be reading this. But I tend to like young adult fantasy more than adult fantasy. So I thought, of course, this is the first, I think, in a long series. I think it's a well-regarded series. It was a trade. It was free. It seemed right. It seemed right for the trade that I made. So if I can get to it somewhat recently, somewhat contemporarily soon, let me just say soon, then I'll be excited. If not, I'm just going to let it I'm going to let it go, because I don't need to be holding on to. I don't even have a individual shelf for fantasy. It's just kind of integrated, but I do have an individual shelf for young adult. It's got more than I wanted. I wanted to actually read everything before the summer so that I could get them out for summer reading. It's still got a few left, and I want to honor that. I don't want to hold on to young adult for very long. If anything, I want in little free libraries, particularly ones by schools, is those young adult books. I'll say Logic Comics. This is 100% out of my comfort zone. This is a graphic novel. It'll be the second in my collection. And I'm not a graphic novel reader by self-declaration. And it's male worldview and it's non-fiction from what I can tell. So lots going on here. It's a beautiful book. I don't know even that much about whom this book is about. He's one of the great philosophers of the last century, Bertrand Russell. I don't know. I'm not a Bertrand Russell follower. Maybe somebody out there is. I don't want to hold on to this forevermore because it's a graphic novel and it's beautiful and I just want to look at it browsing through time. So I might also kind of talk around to my friends and see if anyone is really interested in this book so that I can hurry up and read it and pass it along. Okay. Bear with me. We have some books that are not that one. We have some books that even as I was going around to little free libraries, I was like, it's okay if I find something that I'm like, yes, I really, 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 I've been looking for this book or know this author or want to read this book. Let me trade up, because they are experimental for me. I don't know that much about it, and I'm not quite sure if I'd be really into it. Now, I know that the young adult fantasy is everything that I just said, and the graphic novel is everything that I just said, but these are fiction books that I may or may not be into. The first is Dancing at the Rascal Fair by Ivan Doig. Ivan Doig is a Montanan author. I went through a phase. I was in middle school when I wanted to just read Montanan authors. I was looking for mentorship, really. I mean, a path of like, yes, Montanans in little small towns can write about these lives in little small towns. I remember liking Ivan Doig at the age of like 12 and 13. I don't know how problematic I will find him and or how triggering, anything that could be discussion of settings that could trigger me would be. I've seen him at Friends of the Library a lot. I've seen him at thrift stores. This is a first sort of opportunity to get one in exchange for free at a little free library. So I thought I'd grab it and just see how it goes. See when and if it ends on my TBR list, even this year, right? Okay, Remainder by Tom McCarthy. This is a book that's purported to be about happiness. It's about someone who's been injured and then gets a sum of money, and I think it's sort of can be a really great, insightful look on how you view your own happiness through fortune or misfortune. There's a lot of ways I can anticipate or imagine this book going wrong. But I want to keep an open mind and give it a chance. This is a male author from London. Well, I don't know from London, but that's where he lives. He was born in 1969. And this book is from 2005, so a little bit older, but okay. Coincidence. This was an arc. Love to grab the arcs. And that's all I'm going to say. This feels coming February 2014. So this book is out, and I'm sure if I looked it up, it's got some reviews. J.M. Ironmonger, I don't know who that is. There isn't any author information, as this is an arc. So this one is just completely experimental. We're about to find out. The Last Cuentista. Oh my gosh. This is the book that I know I don't need any more youth books. I just said it. Sorry for not even completing my sentences there. I'm all over the place. I'm so excited for this book. I know exactly who I'm giving this book to once I'm done reading it, and it will be in a somewhat up and coming TBR. Yeah. Okay. I think I have 2 left. Yes, I do. Indeed. I have 2 left of the free, and then I have 5 thrift. So here we go. Tom Wolfe's The Bonfire of the Vanities. Again, this is free. I have read Tom Wolfe. I might have even read this book almost definitely when it came out, or in the early 90s. So when I was in my early to mid-teens, kind of thought it was groovy, a bit, yeah. I have a lot of feelings maybe about that this could drudge up. And again, as it's a book, I think this was published in 1987, maybe even before. Maybe this was an old book when I was reading it in the early 90s. 87, yep. 87. This version is 98. Will it stand up? Will I even get to it? I actually had to choose between this and I think a Thomas Boyle. I already have a Boyle. I haven't gotten to reading it. I have Tom Robbins. Haven't gotten around to him. I have got Chuck Palahniuk. Yeah, haven't gotten around to him either. So we'll add it to like the list of throwbacks that I'm curious to see what it does for my own nostalgia and memory, and also if they hold up. Okay, the last free one, like when I heard about The Friend, which is, it felt heartwarming, people loved it, and I thought maybe that's not even my cup of tea, and then I saw it, and a couple of things. First, it was free, and I had books that I was trying to unload. Second, this is a National Book Award winner, and the National Book Award just released its long list, and I think an upcoming TBR is going to be authors who I have on my shelf who've won a National Book Award or been on the list. Yeah, been on the list, because I recognize several authors' names as I was looking at the long list, and I thought, oh, that's going to be an opportunity for me to read whatever book I have on my shelf that may or may not have, promotional material on its cover. I just recognize the author's name. And then definitely Trust Exercise I have, which is a winner, and then this. So I see myself before the short list and or before the announcement of the winner, doing a National Book Award sort of TBR challenge. And so this will get read. It looks small and sweet, and I think it's going to be a page turner, and it might even need to be that kind of palate cleanser, depending on what I'm reading on either side of it. Okay, here are the thrift books. An author who I now have 2, maybe 3 books on my shelf. This is the one that I'm actually most interested in reading, which is The Reluctant Fundamentalist by Mohsin Hamid. Yeah, I'm so happy to have found this book. I've wanted it even when I picked up the other Hamid books. And so I'm glad for this. I honestly think this, because this is the one most anticipated to be read by me, this will be my inaugural reading of this author, because he's now one of those, like Michael Chabon that I was talking about, that I have multiple books on my shelf by him and haven't read a single thing, just hoping it works out for me. And if it doesn't, I'll just donate them. The Secret History of Costaguana by Juan Gabriel Vasquez. I am unfamiliar with this author. This is historical fiction, and 1924 is the setting, Colombia. This book was published in 2007, so a little bit older. Yeah, I don't know this author. I want to give him a chance. I want to learn a little bit more about him. It could very well be the historical fiction pick in a sort of genre TBR. Godshot, super excited about it, actually. Heard, I think, as BookTube has, great things about this book. And California is the setting, so it's one of those that it's an anticipated read, so I see myself in this conversation getting to it sooner rather than later. But as even just in this stack, it's like 2 months of reading, unless I was reading just like literally a book a day like I had been in the past. So who knows when I'll get to this, but this I thrifted $3. By the River Pie that I sat down and wept. This was a Coelho that I was hoping to find. Actually, there were a lot of Coelhos at the thrift shop today, and I it was compelled to almost grab all of them. But I have Adultery and one other one whose name I can't remember right now on my shelf. And again, this is someone I'm not even sure will hold up. I've read 3 or 4 Coelho books, in the early 20s, late 90s, maybe early 2000s. And really liked him. Happy to have a Brazilian author. Wanted to also make point that of the bought books, this is the only female author. I was trying to make sure that I got some male authors on my shelf, because there's very much dominated by female authorship, which is more than fine for me. But to keep the awareness of, I need different voices, I need different perspectives, I need different points of view. Even if they feel a bit tired and trite, I still need to integrate them. If I've only been reading female voices for a long time, got to throw probably a male author. The Hours, I've read it. When I recently read for the anniversary of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, wasn't Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. It was Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. Yeah. I was trying to remember, had I read Mrs. Dalloway before? Was I confusing something with The Hours, which is the contemporary sort of retelling? Like, what did I remember about this book? And the truth is nothing. I remember reading, I remember the sequence I read it in. I read it with the Monkey Wrench Gang and Edward Abbey book, and maybe Kurt Vonnegut. Slaughterhouse-Five was like in that reading series, but I can't tell you anything about it. And I saw it, and there were several Michael Cunningham books. I have one on my shelf. It doesn't exist at the library right now, and the font's way too small, so I'm going to end up having to get rid of it. But prolific Pulitzer Prize-winning queer author, a book that, since I can't remember much about having read it, and I've just read Mrs. Dalloway, I was excited to find it. That is the last book of this holy moly haul. And I'm still going to be hauling books, like up to 5 or 6 or 7, depending on however many I read a week. But this one felt epic. So thanks for sticking with it.